The plan was stupid. I knew it the moment I said it out loud. I just need you to pretend to be my boyfriend. For like 20 minutes. Silence on the other end of the line. Then a low chuckle. Is this some kind of weird fetish thing? I rolled my eyes, even though I knew he couldn't see it. No, asshole, it's for an apartment. That's how it started. Me, desperate. Him, amused. And both of us completely unprepared for how real it was about to get. Let me back up a bit. I'd been hunting for a place for weeks. My current lease was ending, and my roommate had decided to move in with his girlfriend. Which, yeah, great for him, but it left me screwed. Every decent apartment was either outrageously priced or already taken by the time I called. I was 2 days away from crashing on my cousin's futon when I stumbled across the listing. 1-bedroom apartment, rent-free for a year, fully furnished, utilities included. Too good to be real. I clicked out of curiosity, expecting a scam, but the details were oddly believable. The owner was this older woman named Carmen, who lived out of state. She owned the upstairs unit, but the downstairs had been empty since her husband passed. The catch? She only wanted to rent it to a couple. A gay couple. Less drama, she wrote in the listing. No random girls coming and going. I want 2 men who'll keep it tidy and maybe water the plants. It was wild. But also, it was real. I called the number, and Carmen answered on the first ring. She sounded sweet, a little nosy, and totally convinced that what the world needed was more quiet, stable gay men. You and your partner are welcome to come see it tomorrow, she said. I'll be in town for the weekend, but I do require both of you there. I want to feel the chemistry. That's when I panicked. I didn't have a boyfriend. Hell, I didn't even have a guy the first was talking to. But I had Drew. Drew wasn't my boyfriend. Not even close. We were more like accident friends. You know, the kind of guy you end up bonding with because your college schedules overlapped, and somehow he kept showing up at your parties. Tall, a little too confident, always wearing hoodies with the sleeves pushed up. Straight-ish. Or maybe not. It had never come up, and I'd never asked. We weren't close. But he owed me one. So I called. And that brings us back to the stupid plan. To my surprise, Drew didn't say no. He just laughed and said, "You better Venmo me for gas." When he showed up the next day, he was wearing dark jeans, a clean shirt, and that easy grin that made people instantly trust him. I looked like I'd been stress cleaning all morning, which, to be fair, I had. "You look like a guy about to propose," he said, nudging my shoulder as we walked up the driveway. "Shut up," I muttered. "Just act like we're dating, like hold my hand or something. Be normal." "Define normal," he smirked, and before I could respond, he took my hand. His grip was warm, casual, like we'd done it 1,000 times before. My heart beat too fast. Carmen opened the door before we even knocked. She was in her 60s, tiny, wearing a floral cardigan and a knowing smile. "There they are," she said, ushering us inside like we were her grandkids coming home for Thanksgiving. "You two are cute together. How long have you been dating?" I froze. But Drew didn't miss a beat. 8 months, he said, squeezing my hand. "Met through friends. Total fluke." "Oh, I love a fluke," Carmen said, beaming. "That's how I met my Henry. Come, let me show you the place." The apartment was nicer than I expected. Hardwood floors, sunlit windows, a little balcony with hanging plants. It even smelled like fresh linen. Carmen narrated every room like she was giving us a tour of our future, and the whole time, Drew kept touching me. Nothing over the top. Just enough to sell it, a hand on the small of my back, his fingers brushing mine when we passed through doorways, a little smirk when I almost dropped a brochure. At one point, Carmen left us alone in the living room to get the paperwork, and I turned to him, whispering, "Are you actually enjoying this?" Drew shrugged. "It's kind of fun. You're freakishly good at pretending to be into me." His eyes flicked to mine. "Who said I'm pretending?" That shut me up. We got the place. Carmen hugged us both before we left, pressing the keys into my hand like she was handing off her legacy. "Take good care of it. And of each other," she said, eyes twinkling. Back in the car, Drew tossed his head back and laughed. Well, babe, we're officially domestic. I should have laughed with him. Should have let it roll off my back like the joke it was. But I couldn't stop thinking about what he'd said in the living room. Who said I'm pretending? Moving in should have felt like a win. I had the keys. I had the place. And thanks to Drew's on-the-fly charm, I had exactly what I wanted. A rent-free apartment with sunlight, space, and the kind of hardwood floors you only see on TV shows where people drink wine and cashmere. But here's the thing they don't tell you about pretending to be in a relationship. It doesn't just end when the door closes. Carmen lived upstairs, not in a she might drop by sometimes kind of way. No, she was everywhere. I'd step outside to grab coffee and there she was, sweeping her porch like it was a stage. Coming home from work, she'd appear with a basket of muffins and a suspiciously well-timed, "How's my favorite couple?" which meant Drew had to keep showing up. We agreed early on that we wouldn't overdo it. He didn't actually move in. He still had his place across town, but we kept a toothbrush for him in the bathroom, a hoodie on the coat rack, and his favorite cereal in the cabinet just in case Carmen peeked. Every few days he'd sleep over, which mostly meant eating takeout and crashing on the couch after a few beers. But occasionally, he'd sleep in my bed, not in a way that meant anything, just space-saving, or that's what I told myself. The first time it happened, I didn't even question it. We were watching some stupid crime docuseries, half a pizza between us, both too tired to move. The couch was small, my room had a queen bed, and it was past 1 a.m. "You can crash in my room," I said, casual as hell. "It's fine." Drew looked over at me, something unreadable in his expression. "You sure?" "Yeah, just don't hog the blanket." He didn't. But he did sleep close, closer than necessary. And I was very aware of the fact that, in the dark, his breathing slowed down just before he turned slightly toward me, the warmth of his body radiating across the inches between us. We didn't talk about it. The next morning, he made coffee and joked about how I snored. I don't, and that was that. But the nights started piling up. It wasn't like he had nowhere to go. His apartment was fine, but he kept finding reasons to stay over. A storm, a long shift. He was already in the neighborhood. I didn't stop him. And maybe that was my first mistake. It was a Thursday night when Carmen decided to invite us to her book club. "You boys should come. The girls are dying to meet the famous couple downstairs." I tried to decline gently. We wouldn't want to intrude. "Nonsense," she said. "We're reading Call Me by Your Name." Very appropriate. That's how I found myself in a circle of wine-sipping older women, Drew sitting next to me on the love seat, his knee grazing mine every time he leaned in to say something sarcastic about the book. "So," Carmen's friend Dolores said, swirling her Pinot, "how did you two know it was love?" I choked on my wine. Drew didn't miss a beat. He turned toward me, eyes soft, voice low. "I think I knew the first time he yelled at me for stealing fries off his plate." The room laughed. He said, and I quote, "If you want your own fries, order your own damn fries." He smiled at me. I liked that he wasn't afraid to call me out. My chest tightened. "And you?" Dolores turned to me. "When did you know?" I looked at Drew. His expression was playful, but his eyes stayed on me a little longer than necessary. I cleared my throat. "Honestly, I think it was the night he stayed with me when my cat died. He just held me while I cried. Didn't make it weird." I don't know why I said that. I didn't even have a cat. But something about the way he looked at me after made my pulse spike. Carmen was practically glowing. "You boys are perfect." The rest of the night blurred. Compliments. More wine. Drew's hand lightly on my back as we said goodbye. His breath in my ear as he whispered, "You okay?" I nodded too quickly. But I wasn't. Because that wasn't a joke anymore. Not to me. Back at the apartment, Drew kicked off his shoes and collapsed on the couch. "That was weirdly fun," he said, reaching for the remote. "We're like the gay version of the Americans." I laughed, but it came out wrong. He looked over. "Hey, you good?" "Yeah," I lied. "Just tired." He nodded slowly. "Cool. You want me to head out, or? I paused, shook my head. No, you can stay. There was a beat of silence. Then he stood, walked over, and said, okay. That night, he didn't sleep on the couch, and I didn't pretend that I didn't want him next to me. We didn't talk about it the next morning. Drew woke up before me, his usual messy hair even worse, but somehow still working for him. He padded around the kitchen barefoot, making coffee like it was the most natural thing in the world. No teasing, no smirking, no smug, hey, roomie. Just casual. Like he belonged there. I sat at the edge of the bed, watching him through the doorway, trying to read him like a map I'd never learned to follow. His shirt from the night before was hanging off one of the chairs, and he was wearing only sweats loose and low on his hips. It was domestic, intimate, dangerous. You're out of oat milk, he said without turning around. You know where the store is, I replied, voice scratchy from sleep. He turned then, grinning. Look who woke up spicy. I smiled, but inside I was panicking. Because it was too easy to like this version of him. The soft morning version. The version who left the bathroom fan on too long and folded the blanket back over the couch even though no one asked him to. I wanted to ask why he stayed, why he kept showing up, but I didn't. Instead, I poured myself coffee and said, Carmen's going to expect us at the tenant meeting tomorrow night. He blinked. Is that a real thing? Yeah, I sighed. Building rules, community notes, complaints about dogs peeing on the welcome mat, all that good stuff. Do we hold hands again? I stared at him over my mug. You want to? He didn't answer right away. Just gave me this slow, unreadable look. The kind that felt like a dare. Then he said, only if you promise not to fall in love with me. My smile was tight. Too late, he laughed, thinking I was joking. I didn't correct him. The tenant meeting was exactly what I expected. Folding chairs in the laundry room, lukewarm lemonade, and an angry middle-aged man named Greg ranting about noise levels. After 10 p.m., Carmen beamed when we walked in. She introduced us like we were some long-running soap opera she'd been watching for years. This is my favorite couple. They're so in love, I swear I get cavities just looking at them. Drew leaned into it hard. He had his arm around my shoulders the whole time, whispered dumb jokes in my ear, rubbed slow circles into the fabric of my hoodie like he'd done it 1,000 times. And every time he did, I felt my brain short-circuit just a little more. After the meeting, we lingered. Carmen insisted on showing us her Christmas lights, even though it was barely October. We nodded politely, said all the right things, played the part. And when we got back inside my apartment, I kicked the door closed and let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Drew turned to me, still grinning. Man, we deserve an Oscar. I sat on the arm of the couch, arms crossed. You're good at this, he shrugged, eyes scanning the room. Acting's easy when you like the person. It was too casual, too offhand, but it hit harder than it should have. I'm not a charity case, you know, I said suddenly. You don't have to keep coming over just to make sure I don't lose the apartment. He frowned. What? I mean, I get it, you're being nice, playing along, but it's not your job. There was a pause. A long one. Then Drew stepped closer, expression unreadable. Do you really think that's why I'm here? I held his gaze. Isn't it? He didn't answer. Just stood there, too. Still. I'm not doing this for the apartment, he said finally, voice low. I'm doing it because I want to. That stopped me, because suddenly it didn't feel like a joke anymore. Not a favor, not a fake boyfriend gig. Just a choice, made by him. That weekend, Drew stayed over again. This time, it was unspoken. No couch, no fake excuses. We brushed our teeth at the same sink. He used my body wash. I handed him a clean towel without needing to ask. And when we got into bed, there was no pretending. He didn't touch me, not exactly. But he didn't pull away either. He laid close enough that I could feel the heat of him through the sheets, could hear his breathing slow as he drifted toward sleep. I lay there, wide awake, Every nerve lit up like a warning sign. And still, I didn't move, because maybe I wanted him there more than I wanted clarity. Maybe I was afraid of what would happen if I asked what this meant. Or maybe I already knew. The next week blurred. We didn't have some big moment. No kiss. No dramatic confession. Just routine. Mornings with coffee and shared silence. Nights where he'd throw his backpack by the door, mutter, "Long day," and crash beside me like it was the most natural thing in the world. The space between us in bed kept getting smaller. Sometimes our legs would touch under the blanket, and neither of us would move. One night, he rolled over and draped his arm across my stomach in his sleep. I didn't wake him. I didn't shift away. I laid there for hours, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding like it knew something I didn't. Friday night, my friend Jamie threw a party. It was one of those low-key get-togethers that end up packed with half the city. I almost didn't go, but Drew nudged me into it. "You've been holed up all week," he said. "We're going." "We?" he smirked. "Fake boyfriends go places together. It's in the rule book." So we went. It started fine. Music, drinks, the usual small talk. But then I saw people I hadn't seen since before all this started. Friends who didn't know about the arrangement. Friends who didn't know Drew. We were in the kitchen, mid-conversation with a few of them, when someone asked, "So, how long have you two been together?" I froze, but Drew didn't. "Almost 9 months," he said smoothly, reaching over to brush my knuckles with his thumb. "Met through friends. Kinda happened fast." "Oh, wow," someone said. "You guys seem solid." Drew looked at me. "He's the best thing that ever happened to me." My throat went dry. It wasn't the words, it was the way he said it. Too real. Like, maybe, just maybe, he wasn't playing anymore. Later, I found myself outside on the porch, alone. The air was cold, sharp enough to sober me up. Drew came out a few minutes later, hands in his jacket pockets. "You good?" I nodded, not looking at him. "You didn't have to say all that." He leaned against the railing beside me. "I thought that was the point. There's a difference between pretending and whatever that was." He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You ever get so deep into something fake that you forget where the line is?" I finally turned to him. "Are you forgetting?" He looked down at his shoes. I think I already did. That night, back at the apartment, we didn't say much. He changed into a t-shirt and climbed into bed. I stood there for a second too long, unsure what I was walking into anymore. "You coming?" he asked softly, like he wasn't sure if he should have said it. I nodded and slid in beside him. We lay in silence, staring at the ceiling. Then I felt it, his hand, finding mine under the blanket, his fingers brushing gently against my knuckles, then curling in. No jokes, no playful grin, just stillness. Just his hand, holding mine like it was the only real thing left. The next morning, Carmen knocked on the door. I opened it, still groggy, hair messy. She smiled and held up a pie. "Just checking in on my favorite boys." I stepped aside to let her in. She looked around the apartment, nodding approvingly. "Everything looks lovely," she said. Then her eyes flicked toward the bedroom door, still slightly ajar. "Is he still sleeping?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah." She smiled, eyes twinkling. "You're good for each other, you know. I can see it." I didn't know what to say to that, because the truth was, I didn't know what we were anymore, but I knew I wanted to believe her. By the end of October, Drew was at the apartment more than he wasn't. His own place had basically become a closet, somewhere he picked up a fresh change of clothes or grabbed a package off his porch. But when he talked about, quote, going home, he meant here, my apartment, our apartment, technically, even if no one said it out loud. We were in a rhythm, grocery runs, cooking half-decent meals, watching bad horror movies just for the excuse to drag the comforter onto the couch and share it like teenagers. But not once did we talk about what was really going on between us. The silence was becoming its own language. A few times I caught myself staring at him when he wasn't looking, like when he hummed while brushing his teeth. or leaned back in his chair after a shower, towel around his neck, phone in hand, his jawline still damp, his eyes distant like he was thinking too hard. I wanted to ask, are we still pretending? But I didn't, because I didn't want to know the answer. The moment things started to shift again was subtle. Jamie came over one Saturday afternoon to drop off a book I'd lent him. Drew was there, shirtless, sprawled on the couch like he paid rent. When I opened the door, Jamie glanced past me and raised an eyebrow. "Damn," he said under his breath. "Roommate privilege, huh?" "He's not my roommate," I said automatically. "Oh, he's just here a lot." Jamie handed me the book, but his gaze lingered. "You guys together?" My throat went dry. "What?" "I mean, everyone at the party thought so. And now he's just—" He gestured vaguely toward the living room. "There, half naked, like this is his place." "He's not my boyfriend," I said quickly. Too quickly. Jamie narrowed his eyes. "You sure?" I didn't answer. That night, I couldn't sleep. Drew was already passed out beside me, one arm thrown across the pillow between us. His breathing was slow, even, peaceful. And all I could think was, if this is fake, why does it feel more real than anything I've ever had? I turned on my side and just looked at him, studied the way his brow relaxed when he slept, the little line near his mouth that only appeared when he was exhausted. Then I whispered something I shouldn't have. "I wish it wasn't pretend. I thought he was asleep. But he whispered back, eyes still closed, voice barely audible. "Me too." The next morning, he acted like it didn't happen. Made eggs, told me I was out of clean towels, said something about the upcoming game on Sunday like it was any other day. And I let him, because pretending was safer than asking him what the hell that meant. That week, Carmen hosted a small building potluck. Drew and I were practically celebrities at this point. Everyone wanted to know our story, the couple who seemed so perfect together. We brought store-bought cookies and sat through 2 hours of overly enthusiastic neighbors talking about how love wins and how you can just feel it when two people are right for each other. Carmen caught me alone toward the end while Drew was helping carry a tray back inside. "He's good to you," she said, like she knew something. I nodded. "Yeah, he is. You remind me of me and Henry," she smiled. "Sometimes it sneaks up on you. You think you're just going through the motions, but it's already happening. You're falling before you know it." I forced a polite smile, but my chest tightened, because that's exactly what it felt like I had fallen somewhere along the way, and I wasn't sure if he was falling with me or just holding my hand on the way down. That night, we walked home in silence. The streetlights painted everything in soft gold, and the air had that faint end-of-fall crispness. Drew shoved his hands in his pockets, his shoulder brushing mine as we walked. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah." He didn't press. He never did. And maybe that was the problem. When we got inside, he peeled off his jacket and headed to the kitchen. I stood by the door for a beat too long. Then I said quietly, "Can I ask you something?" He paused. "Yeah? Why are you still doing this?" He turned to me slowly. "Doing what?" "This." I gestured around us. "All of it. The apartment, the act, sleeping over, holding hands at building meetings, playing this game." He looked like he wanted to say something smart, something light, but he didn't. Instead, he walked over, stopped us in front of me. I don't know how to stop. We didn't talk for 2 days after that. Not really. Drew still came by, still slept in my bed, still laughed at my dumb jokes when I burned the toast or dropped my phone between the couch cushions. But there was a tightness in the air, like we'd both seen the edge of something and backed away before we could fall into it. He didn't say anything more about not knowing how to stop, and I didn't ask, because part of me was scared he'd walk it back, say it didn't mean what I thought it did, say it was just about the apartment, or Carmen, or convenience. But the other part, the quieter, more dangerous part, was hoping he wouldn't, that he'd mean it, that he'd already meant all of it. That Friday, we had a fight. It started stupid. Most things do. I got home late from work, frustrated, hungry, my feet killing me. I walked into the apartment, expecting it to be empty. Instead, Drew was there, sitting on the kitchen counter like he lived there, phone in one hand, cereal bowl in the other. He didn't even look up. "You're out of milk," he said. I dropped my keys a little harder than I meant to. "Yeah, no shit," I snapped. Didn't realize I was running a grocery store. He raised an eyebrow. "You okay?" "I've been on my feet for 9 hours, and you're eating my food and acting like it's your place." "Isn't that the point?" he said, voice calm, too calm. Us pretending to be something we're not? That hit like a slap. I stared at him. "Is that what we're still doing? Pretending?" He blinked, the smallest flinch, then shrugged. "Isn't that what this was from the start?" I laughed, short, bitter. "Right, just a performance. All of it." Drew slid off the counter, set the bowl down in the sink. "You don't get to throw that in my face like I haven't been here every night. Like I haven't... What?" He shook his head. "Forget it. No, say it." I pushed. "What were you about to say?" His jaw clenched. "Like I haven't been falling for you and not knowing what the hell to do about it." Silence. Heavy, deafening. Then, "You're not the only one confused, okay?" he said, softer now. "This started as a joke, a favor. And then suddenly I was here more than I was at my own place. And I started liking it, liking you." I couldn't speak. My throat burned. "I didn't plan on this," he added. "None of it. But now I can't walk away. And I'm scared as hell." I stepped toward him, heart racing. "You could have told me. I thought it would ruin everything. Keeping it in ruined everything." He let out a shaky breath. "So what now?" I looked at him. Really looked at him. This guy who'd been a background blur in my life just weeks ago, who now fit into every corner of my world so easily it hurt. "Now we stop pretending," I said. He stared at me. And then he kissed me. Not like a joke, not like a performance, but like he meant it. Like he'd been holding it back for weeks and couldn't anymore. My hands were in his hair before I realized I'd moved. His mouth was soft, slow, uncertain, like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to want this. I pulled him closer, and every wall between us shattered. After, we sat on the floor, backs against the kitchen cabinets, legs tangled, heart still racing. He looked over at me. "So, are we dating now?" I grinned. "I don't know. Let me check with Carmen." He laughed, head tipped back, eyes closed. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could finally breathe. We didn't tell Carmen right away. Not because we were hiding anything, but because, weirdly, nothing had changed. The next morning, Drew still made the coffee. I still burned the toast. We still bickered over who got the last clean towel. The only difference was the quiet touch when he passed behind me in the kitchen, or the way he kissed the side of my neck before heading to class like it was the most natural thing in the world. No fanfare, no fireworks, just this quiet, undeniable shift into something real. It had been real for a while, I think. We just finally stopped pretending. A week later, Carmen invited us up for tea. She had that gleam in her eye, the one that usually meant she had something to say and had been sitting on it long enough for it to bubble over. We sat on her floral couch while she poured chamomile into little mismatched cups. The smell reminded me of old bookstores and fresh laundry. "So," she said, sitting across from us, legs crossed like she was about to interview us, "you two seem different lately." Drew squeezed my knee lightly. "Different how?" "Closer," she said, softer, like you stopped acting. I blinked. "What?" Carmen smiled knowingly. "I'm not stupid, boys. I knew you weren't together when you moved in." My stomach dropped. She held up a hand. "Don't worry, I wasn't going to say anything. You needed a break, and I liked you too. But now?" She gestured between us. "Now it's not fake anymore. That much I can tell." Drew looked at me, then back at her. "Yeah, it's not." Carmen nodded, like she'd just confirmed something she already knew. "Good. Real is better anyway." She took a sip of tea. "You both deserve something real." Later that night, we sat on the balcony, legs stretched out, sharing a blanket. The city glowed beneath us, soft and distant, and for once, it all felt still. Drew leaned his head against my shoulder. What if we never found that listing? I laughed. Then I'd probably be living in my cousin's basement, and you'd still be in that shoebox apartment with the broken shower knob. He smiled. Do you think it would have happened anyway? What? This, us. I thought about it. All the moments that led us here, all the glances and nights and silences that had stacked up like quiet evidence. I don't know, I said honestly, but I'm glad it happened like this. He turned to face me, his smile fading into something soft, something sincere. Me too. We stayed there a while, the city buzzing below, wrapped up in something that didn't need a label anymore. There was no script now, no arrangement, no act. Just us. Real. Messy. Ours. And that was enough.